Welcome to the third and final chapter of how to play chess. We've just gone over how to move the kings and queens. We've also, in the first lecture, went over how to move all the other pieces. Now what we have left now are just a couple of things that are like special moves. And the first of those is a king move, which is called castling. I mentioned before that in the beginning of the game, your king is subject to a lot of attack in the middle of the board. So usually you want to put your king in a safe place off to the side until the end. And a way we can do that, I will show you, that happens quite often, is like this. When there are no pieces in between your king and your rook, there are many conditions. They all have to be met. There's no pieces in between your king and your king and your rook, I'm sorry. Your king has not moved, your rook has not moved, and nothing is attacking the squares that the king is going to move through. And the king has the option of moving two spaces over and putting the rook on the other side. And note that he can do this on either side. He can do it on this side, which is called kingside castling, or he can do it on the other side, which is queenside castling. And to show you how that looks, I'll just play a few more moves here. And now notice, if it's black's turn to move, he can go actually castle either side. There are no pieces in between his king and his rook on either side. Nothing is attacking the squares in between the king and the rook, the two squares that the king is going to go through. Notice that if something's attacking this square right here next to the rook, the king actually isn't going to move through that square if he castles. He's only moving through these. So something could actually be attacking the rook or attacking this square here, and then you could still castle. But notice that even in this case, nothing's attacking those squares, and none of the pieces have moved, so the king has the option of castling either kingside, which would mean like this, or if he wanted to, he could castle queenside. And if you did that, then you just bring the rook on the other side. The king goes over 2, the rook goes on the other side. And again, the point of castling is to put your king in a safe place and put your rook towards the middle of the board where he can attack sooner. So, no pieces in between the king and the rook. The king and the rook haven't moved, and the king is not in check, and then the spaces that the king is going to move through, none of those pieces are under attack. Nothing's attacking those squares. There's a lot of conditions being met, just a few actually, but they all have to be met. You can't be like, well, you know, I haven't moved my king, so this is fine. No, they all have to be met. And finally, our last special move that we have to talk about is a pawn move called en passant, which I believe is French for in passing. If I'm wrong, don't shoot me. I'll be fine. Alright, so in this position, if it is black to move, let's say black notices that if he moves this pawn here, then white could take him. So, instead of moving there, black decides he's going to be tricky by moving two spaces. So now, he thinks that white can't take him on this spot because the white can only take diagonally like this. But this is what the special move en passant is all about. When a pawn passes through the point where another pawn could take him, and instead moves 2 and ends up next to him, the pawn which he has passed and is now next to has the option on that very next move. He can't do it 3 moves from now. He has the option on the very next move to take where he would have been. And then as you see, that pawn where he went would disappear, and you actually go to the spot where he would have been. Notice instead, say, goes here, and white has the option of taking en passant here. Let's say instead he moves here. Okay, and then black makes a move, and now white decides that he wants to take here. You can't do it. You can only do it on the move directly after he moves the pawn next to yours. Okay, so let's continue on. Say it goes like this, and now white thinks he's going to be tricky by moving this pawn up next to this pawn. And now, if you see, he has skipped the space where they'd be attacked, and he's just skipped right through it. So what can black do? Well, black can do many things here, but black has the option on this very move to play en passant and take the pawn on this square. Notice that this pawn disappears, and then he goes and takes instead where this thing would be. And this is a perfectly legal chess move. It's not like some trick that you can play on your friends. This is an actual chess move. You can go online and print things out if you need to. So, the pawn has to be moved up next to the pawn. He has to move 2, and then on that very next move, the opponent can take where the point he could have taken him at. It's kind of complicated. So, we have finished our lecture on the basics of chess, how to move and everything. And there's just a few notes I want to make. Chess is a very complicated game. I mean, it's taken me 3 lectures just to talk about the rules, and I'm sure I've already left some things out. If you are confused about anything, you can always go on to like Google, or you can go onto a number of sites, and you can search, and there's always going to be things that will, you can always get answers. Just go to Google and type rules of chess, and maybe reading through it might help you better. I don't really know what works best for you. But as complicated as chess is, I hope this doesn't deter you from playing, because once you learn the rules, you're not going to forget them. It might take you a few hours to learn the rules, but once you get going, you're fine, and then you can learn about strategies, and it's a very fun game. It's a game for the mind. Now, we've gone over the rules, but before you proceed to any of the other lectures, I want to encourage you to go on to like Yahoo or Pogo.com or freechess.org. Just search Google for play chess or anything like that, and I want to encourage you to try to play a game, just a legal game of chess where you're making all legal moves, and play through like 10-15 of them, speed games, it doesn't matter, just to get an idea of how to play. Because if you're not quite sure how to play, then the rest of the lectures aren't going to make sense. You got to give your mind time to adapt to the new things that you've learned. So on that note, I just want to thank you for checking out our first lecture on the basics of chess, how to get to the 200 rating mark. And I hope to see you here for future lectures, but not immediately if you don't know how to play. I want you to play some games first. And remember, if you have any specific questions that you can't find on Google, or if there's just a tiny thing that you need clarification for, you can always email me. Just go to the About portion of our page and you'll find my contact information there. And I believe that's it. So see you back here after you play some games. Thanks. Bye.